I want to get back to the youth crime crisis, especially as it affects the great state of Queensland, because with the election there only 5 months away, that clown of a Premier, I've got to say, Stephen Miles, is actually now playing catch-up on youth crime. He's meeting with demonstrators outside Parliament yesterday, and now he's promised to remove the detention as a last resort clause from the Youth Justice Act, making it more likely that children who pose a threat to the community will now be detained. Here he is from earlier today.
It's my responsibility now that I am the Premier to ensure that our laws and our plans respond to what Queenslanders want to see. And I've heard from them that they were concerned that that policy was putting community safety at risk and undermining confidence in the laws and in the courts. And that's why I'm making this change.
Yeah, good change. Better late than never, I guess, because the opposition leader, David Crisafulli, has been advocating this for years, including right here on this program.
The Youth Justice Act in this state is broken, and the government watered it down 8 years ago deliberately and created a generation of untouchables. We will rewrite the Youth Justice Act. There is a provision in there that says detention must be a last resort. That will be removed immediately.
Let's bring in Trudy Redding, who's an advocate for Voice for Victims. Thanks for joining us, Trudy. First up, your response to getting rid of this detention as a last resort clause, is that the right thing to do?
Look, if that is what they're doing, yes, we do think it is the right thing to do. We've been calling on that for 9 months now, since we first rallied in Brisbane in August of last year. But there is some, I guess, confusion today as to whether or not there's just a change in words and whether or not there's a change in laws. I have heard that apparently the police minister today in Parliament said that it was about changing perspective, was the word perspective instead of changing the laws. Or perception, was the word, instead of changing the laws.
Yeah, well, as I showed, the opposition in Queensland has been calling for this in no uncertain terms for a long while. So it seems like Stephen Miles has just picked this up. He's following their lead. He hasn't given the detail. It needs to be clear, doesn't it? And the other thing that goes with this, of course, is if you're going to have more youth in detention, you want to make sure you've got the right facilities to handle them, because there's going to be a lot more in detention given the levels of crime we've seen over recent months.